This is going to be the quick takes for the two main timer jobs for StoragePoint. These are called the Unused BLOB Cleanup and the BLOB Health Analyzer jobs. We have four main topics for this morning. First will be what are the uses of Unused BLOB Cleanup and the BLOB Health Analyzer jobs, what they are for, what they mainly do. Second is how do they help the farm? Every timer job functions with specific details that is expected to be processed, and the two timer jobs for this morning is no different. And the third one will be what can be used out of these two jobs? What can we see when these jobs are completed regularly? What can we see after they completed for every run? And then lastly is how to schedule these jobs effectively. This is important because these two jobs are possibly the heart and soul of the timer jobs for StoragePoint. So these are just a brief summary for both timer jobs. First off is, let me read this out loud. The Unused BLOB Cleanup job removes orphan blobs from the external file store. It is important to schedule and run this job on a regular basis to reclaim space on the external file store and stop the file store from growing too large with unused blob files. So mainly, check-ins and check-outs or uploads of files in SharePoint creates what we call blobs. These blobs will be stored in external file shares if we have StoragePoint set up. And if a file gets deleted in SharePoint, it will create what we call an orphan blob. And the only way we delete this programmatically is through the Unused BLOB Cleanup job. So moving forward, the BLOB Health Analyzer is what it does. It looks at the blobs within a profile to check for inconsistencies such as missing blobs, blob reference size mismatches, or invalid DLNK files. In short, BLOB Health Analyzer job mainly looks at blob integrity. If you run this timer job and it does not see any inconsistencies with any of your blobs within a profile scope, it will not report any error, which is definitely a sign that a farm is in good health. Moving forward with our topic, how do these jobs help the farm? These jobs, they work hand in hand simply because you have the Health Analyzer job checking for the integrity, and they also update these records as needed. There are certain situations wherein blobs needs to be manually updated by this job in order for it to be marked for its next step. And then the Unused BLOB Cleanup, obviously, it takes care of those records that were discovered and which were deemed to be cleared. These jobs, when scheduled properly, will maintain the farm's constant blob movements and will reclaim space on the go as needed. These two jobs are scheduled correctly. They will definitely maintain the farm's health in terms of the constant movements of in and outs, checkouts, deletions, and will not let the farm use up too much unnecessary space. Moving forward with the next topic, what can be used out of these two jobs? Just like what I said in the early part of the session, these jobs are greatly used to gauge how healthy a farm is. When these jobs complete, it gives you summaries and or reports, especially with the BLOB Health Analyzer. It gives you detailed information as to how many items have been scanned, including how many items are marked for deletion or how many items are missing. These are the main information that is important when these two timer jobs are running, simply because we have data collection that will help us know how healthy the actual farm is. And then just for references, we have these two items, these two sites that can be accessed through our website as well. Both are from the reference guides, which should tell you more about the specifics on the scheduling of these two timer jobs. Are there any questions from our attendees? All right, so I can see a question here. What does the UBC job mainly do? Its main function is to clear out unused blobs. These unused blobs, or orphan blobs, are blobs that were created during checkout or deletions of SharePoint items. I understand that both are critical. The job that should go first should be the blob health analyzer job, simply because it checks blob's integrity first, and also, again, it updates records effectively for the unused blob cleanup to do what is needed for those specific items. So it should be blob health analyzer followed by unused blob cleanup. There are issues with unused blob cleanup completion. There are definitely a lot of factors that can affect the performance of unused blob cleanup job or any timer job specifically. For what you are experiencing, we should take a look at how much data is being cleaned up, and we should also make sure that you are in the latest version of StoragePoint, simply because there has been a lot of changes on how the unused blob cleanup job process everything, especially on the newer versions. All right, so this is about scheduling. Okay, so how to effectively schedule both these jobs? The first main thing that needs to be considered is how big actually is the scope. Are we talking about 50 to 100 gigabytes, or are we talking about terabytes of data externalized? Both these factors will affect on how often StoragePoint timer jobs should be scheduled, specifically unused blob cleanup and health analyzer jobs. Our recommendation will be to run it once a week. That should be more than enough for most farms. And the interval for each run is also not very scientific. So the initial recommendation that I give out to customers is to run both these jobs on specific profiles twice before actually trying to get them to an automated schedule. Because running this twice will give you the needed details on how much time it takes for each run before it completes. So in terms of scheduling, the optimum schedule will be to run it once a week. And another thing to consider, important thing to consider, is how much data is within the scope. Our jobs are running for hours for 150 gig content database. Why and what are we doing? What we are doing if the content database is growing? All right. So again, this depends on the environment itself. There are a lot of factors, such as how much load is being sent out to the server where you're running the timer job. There is also the factor on how often does both UBC, the unused blob cleanup, and the blob health analyzer job actually runs on those profiles. Because obviously the lesser time you run it on profiles will definitely take its toll on how much time it needs to complete.